Coloration.
Yeah,
Still here.
All right, so I want you to know that, like, maps like these, you don't have to know any details about them, okay? That's not going to be on the test. I might give you a map and you have to interpret whatever's given to you. You don't have to learn these. Like, these, you have to know that death rates are declining, birth rates are declining, because that's in your notes. But exact figures in these graphs, you don't have to know. These, however, like these formulas, you have to know. Again, like fertility rates, you don't have to know the number. You have to know that there's specific countries that have the highest fertility rate, right? You have to know these terms and these graphs that go with the terms. Those are important because this is a vocabulary word and the graph represents the vocabulary word, okay? Same thing with S, same thing with these, okay? Just want to make sure that you're aware of that, okay? So we are here. Oh, like here's another one. Life expectancy. The years, nowhere in your notes it says you have to know our life expectancy. You have to know that death rates have declined because of life expectancy, right? But not what our life expectancy is. Okay. So we're here. Survivorship curve is another type of graph that helps you to interpret populations or different populations and what their survivorship is like at different age levels. So the age is your X and the survivorship is your Y. And then in this particular graph, we're showing you pictures of humans and then a variety of species here, mainly tree here. But it's really referencing type 1. So there's other organisms besides us that are type 1, okay? But if you are type 1, what is your survivorship like when you're young? Very high. So the probability of surviving after birth is very high. And you're going to last how long? So there's no ages here, but you could see that it's long time. We have a long lifespan. You could add that. So we're going to reach adulthood, and then eventually we're going to get to a point where the average population will decline, right? Within a specific age. Independent of age. There's really no correlation. What about type 3? What happens to them when at their early life? High probability of death in the early stages. And then what? Because I have to add that. What happens after? They live like forever almost, right? Think about a tree, which is what's being demonstrated here. Once it reaches maturity, the chances of death are really rare. How about that? So we did factors that affect birth rates, factors that affect death rates. Now we're doing factors that affect migration. And then we'll talk about population growth in general. So what are some reasons why people will leave or enter other areas?
Religious freedom.
Religious freedom. Freedom in general. What other kind of freedom? Political. And just seeking refuge, right? What else? Money. Job opportunity, right? Poverty. Just even that will make you want to leave if you can. What else? War. All right, so you probably saw this in AP Bio, and you saw the next one, which is demographic transition, which is the last of our notes. It's important that you understand that these diagrams, age structure diagrams, are designed to show males and females within a certain population at different age levels, okay? They do this in order to predict what direction the growth will occur, okay? So it's showing how many males and how many females exist within a population at a specific time to calculate growth. So one side of the graph will be males, one side will be females. That should have been labeled here. It's not, but it will be. And then you have to know that the bottom of the pyramid is pre-reproductive, the middle of the pyramid is reproductive, and the top is post. I'm not going to quiz you on 0 to 14. I'm going to say below the age of, right? So if you know below the age, I'm going to say below the age of 18, you're going to be around here, right? In the early stages. If the population is very high from 0 to 44, or 0, let's say in this case, to maybe 30-something, what do you think is going to happen to the growth of the population? Fast. We call it rapid growth. Stick with me on the pyramids and then write the notes, okay? If the population is still a little bit bigger at the bottom of the pyramid than it is at the top, what do you think will happen to the population? Slow, or kind of like a stable growth. What about this one? No growth. It's actually 0 growth. And this one? Negative. Good job. So this model is designed, number one, to evaluate birth rates, death rates, and growth that already happened, which would be stage 1, stage 2, stage 3. This already took place. These are facts. We have specific trends for birth rates, death rates, and growth rate. Usually stage 4 is future, okay? In this particular model, they're telling you this is the future, right? But anything of stage 4 or 5 in your demographic transition model on the AP exam needs to be evaluated based on whatever's given to you. In other words, I can give you this, and this 4 will go like this, and you have to discuss whatever I show you as 4, okay? I might not even give you a 5. Some AP exams have given just 4, some have given 5, so I follow those same trends. Whatever you see given to you in the graph for 4 and 5, you answer the questions based on that. 1, 2, and 3 can be answered based on the notes or facts or looking at the graph, okay? What's also going to happen on the test is I'm not going to give you the labels of what line represents birth rates, what line represents death, what represents population growth, because you're going to know based on the trends, right? So in this case, I gave it to you so you could review it, but let's go over how you're going to figure this out, okay? So we're going to evaluate each stage. The stages are all about what's happening before industrial society occurred and after. So they reference them pre, transitional, which means we are somewhat already in the industrial society, then industry, and then post, okay? So that's why it's kind of like future or now to future. So let's start with pre-industry. What are the birth rates like? High. Death rates? High. Population growth? Low, but also what? Stable. 0 growth to steady growth to stable growth, and low. You could add the word low, okay? Because obviously there's no growth because deaths balanced out birth. Now something else you want to know is why. Why were death rates high? Why were birth rates high? Give me some reasoning and then go ahead and add them to your notes. So you're always going to think of medicine as a key component, okay? There wasn't medicine. What else wasn't there?
Like contraceptives.
Good. There wasn't contraception, and birth rates were high but death rates were high, so population balanced out. What else? You want to think of all the things we've talked about?
Not much nutrition.
No nutrition or little bit of food. You got to go back. So if we're going to say stage 3 is industrial, remember what happened before the industry. You had nomads, then you had agriculture, then you had industry. So you had little food, you moved for food, you didn't live in one specific place, so you had limited access to resources until you sought them. And one more thing, hygiene, good. So not just your personal, but also in terms of food, like not taking care of food or eating proper food. All right, so now we move to transitional. Yes?
For these graphs, is it always going to be the same?
Always 1, 2, 3 is the same because this already happened. So 4 is post-industry, which means we're predicting what's going to happen based on trends, right? So it's whatever is given to you on the test you evaluate, okay? So stage 2, what is the birth rate? Still high. Death rate? Decreasing, like dramatic decrease, right? And what happened to the population? How much increase? A lot. What do we call that? A lot. Exponential. It literally starts exponential growth, okay? Because you're starting to see the J-shaped curve. And remember, if I'm talking about stage 2, I'm only talking about what's in stage 2. So what is the number one reason why the population grew exponentially? Number one reason.
Technology.
Medicine.
which is what? Decline in, that's the answer. The reason for exponential growth is decline in death rate. Then you ask yourself, why is there a decline in death rate? Germ theory, medicine, food, right? Sanitation, all of the factors that affected exponential growth have to do with decline in death rate. Then we move on to stage 3. What's stage 3 birth rate? Super decrease, right? What happened? Let's talk about that first before we go anywhere else. Education is the key. What else? Contraception. What else? More who? What people? Women. Women went to school. Women got jobs. This had a really big impact on, number one, when you were going to have your first child and whether or not you're going to have 2, right? What happened to death rates? This is stage 3. Still declining. Good. You can't say, maybe you could say towards the end it's starting to stabilize, but it's still declining. And population growth? Still increasing at what rate? Exponentially. Good.
So it's increasing?
Stage 4, according to this graph, what are birth rates like? Low. Death rates? Low. What do we call this pattern though? Does anybody remember?
Cyclic.
Good job. Cyclic. First class to know it. Population growth. See it right here, look.
Stabilizing.
But you would say first, I would say it's definitely stabilizing. Steady and heading towards 0, right? Because you got stable, which means 0 growth. And then if we're going to analyze stage 5, which is here, what would you say is happening to the population? Decline. Pretty scary, huh? And birth rates, which is right here, decline and then go up, which is odd. Maybe because death rates also, I don't know. It just depends on whatever they give you. So these are people that study populations and come up with graphs based on their predictions. So whatever predictions they are, which usually come with a reason, are going to be represented in a graph. Yes. So with the exponential growth, obviously we know, you have to know that China is the most populated. You have to know that India is the second. You do not have to know their current population. You have to know we're third. But they had such a critical issue with the exponential growth that they came up with this thing called family planning, which basically led to, first key to everything is education, okay? Letting people know about ways to maybe reduce having so many children was important, or giving them an opportunity to be educated to get better jobs, reduce population. So education, number 1. Then came, let's provide contraception. They didn't just provide contraception. They provided sterilization and they provided free abortion, okay? The way it's written is a lot different than the way it really happens. So let's talk about the way it's written, okay? They're going to give you health care for children. And the first to do this was India, okay? And obviously empower women, right? Because you know that with women came a big decline. What they don't really say is, so they encourage this. They encourage late marriages. They give you more food, better housing, better jobs, all these things if you agree to the one child, right? And then people said, well, if I'm going to have one child, I'm going to try to have a boy because he can contribute to the family. And then came the disasters. What they don't say is what happens when you have 2, right? So in China, when you had 2 children, you would lose this and sometimes you would get arrested. And if you got arrested while you were pregnant, sometimes you came out and you weren't pregnant anymore. Yeah. So those are things, and honestly, you have to say, do you agree or disagree? And to what extent was that something that should be done is really the question. And that's for you guys. This is just facts on what the family planning and national control look like. But obviously with this scary graph that no matter who you are and what you study, you know that we're going to reach 9 billion eventually and pretty soon, right? I told you when I started teaching this class, look, 2000. Actually, when you were born, right? The population